Anyways, I'm going to make this quick. We're going to talk about like why you feel like you're carrying too much or why your operation feels heavy, right? And why things feel heavy, like even 1 month in the year. Like it's only February 2nd. And you may be feeling like you're stuck or things are going like too fast or things are not happening in how you want it to happen, which is definitely, wait, let me put my Facebook window on this side. Okay, so definitely something for you to think about. It does not have to feel that way. If your operations and your business and how things work. Hey, Nyla, and how things were heavy, like how things were going and operating in January made you feel like heavy and that you're stuck. We're going to talk about like why that may be, especially if you're running a business or a company, because it's usually not a lack of effort. And I'm going to tell you that because one thing's for sure is like I know I put in a lot of effort in everything that I do, but it may feel like your effort is just noise, like nothing's happening. You're just wasting your time. And that's usually because you don't have the structure necessary. Like you're missing structure and things that you do in your work and your company, and it's showing up and the way you feel. You're feeling heavy, right? So if you're running a company, definitely stay tuned and let's talk about it of why that looks like and why you feel like you're carrying too much. Like people think it's a joke when I say like it all comes down to your systems and how your company is operating because then a lot of folks think about the revenue but they don't think about how they carry that revenue and how they make that money work for them and their company. So they're usually losing and bleeding a lot of money and not realizing that. Okay. So if you feel like your organization or company has been growing so fast and faster than its system, then it's time for you to slow down to speed up. And a lot of folks don't know what I mean by that, but sometimes you have to like slow down enough to audit what's happening within your company or organization for you to start fixing them as you grow, or it's never going to match the vision that you have for yourself and for your company. Okay. So you need to really come down to like get back to center and analyze these things and make these decisions. All right, give me 1 second, let me see. So I'm good on Facebook. So again, if you're here, hashtag live. If you're catching the replay, hashtag replay. Let me know you're here. And for those who are new, I hey Nyla. For those who are new, I always forget to do this. My name is Stacey, and I'm an operation and system strategist. So I help companies and organizations, for profit, nonprofits alike, um, improve their systems and the tools that they have so they can function better. So what that looks like is auditing how your organization is functioning so we can determine whether or not you have a gap in the systems that you're using. If there's a tool you could be using that supports your systems, like let's say that maybe you have no onboarding systems, and the way that with our audit that I figured that out is that your team and nobody's on the same page. There's a lack of clarity. So oftentimes there are certain things based on our framework that I'm able to use to diagnose whether or not you have a gap that exists and for us to kind of like shorten that gap or even like decimate it so your company can function the way it's supposed to function. Okay. So oftentimes it's not your effort. It is the structure. Okay. So new year, new me, something that we hear all the time, but with organizations and companies, every January, like leaders like you oftentimes have a tendency to feel optimistic about how things are going to go for this year. Hey, things are going to go well. I meditated on this. I'm going to do this. I'm inspired. I'm going to do this. Because things went well, right? But February comes around and it looks like things are moving because people are busy. January, people are usually very busy, right? So it feels heavy again when you get mid-February, like you're starting to feel exhausted because of how much you're running around in in January, right? So you start feeling exhausted. It's not only because of the work, but the way the work is set up. And sometimes you have to realize that the way the work is being done, it's messy enough, unclear enough, and dependent on the wrong things and wrong people that it makes you exhausted. So you have to come to terms that maybe the work, you're doing it, but not doing it the right way. So how can you fix that? It all comes down to the way you operate, the way the process, the way you experience the journey. A lot of people think it's all about how you get there, but the process and the journey are just as important. And that's where the systems come in, right? So that's the part that I want you to admit. It's not how you're doing the work, but it's it's not the work you're doing, but how you're doing the work. There we go. That's how to phrase it and for it to make sense. So you're carrying a lot because the roles of people on your team are very unclear, where you have someone who is an at assistant and that person is emailing people you should be emailing and in contact with. That person is doing QuickBooks. It's not their job. Like there's a lack of clarity in the roles and how people are supposed to operate. So what that does, it creates so much entanglement that the work starts feeling like too much for some people. The systems are non-existent, where you don't have a system for how to generate revenue or how to fundraise. So now what happens is like you're doing it just by looking at people and saying, "Oh, yes, we could do that," right? But there's no system in place to make that happen. And the workflows, they were never designed for you to execute the work. Now, a lot of people don't understand what workflows are. So, when you think about workflows, I want you to think about journey in the process. And I'll give you an example. So, if I am implementing a program and somebody wants to join this program. So what happens is there's an intake process. They meet with Jane first, and Jane has to send them the form. They fill out the form back to Jane and send it back to Jane. Jane reviews the form, and then based on the form, there's a logic. Well, in my mind, there's a logic. Like if they answered XYZ, then they're accepted. If they did not answer XYZ, they're not accepted, and then Jane has to send them a result. If they're accepted, what's the process then? Then now Jane has to communicate with the outreach person or whoever, the advisor, and the advisor has to connect this person. So think about the journey, and then think about the workflow. So fill out the form, and then is there a CRM that automatically sends an email to this person, and then automatically Jane gets it or whatever it is. But you have to think about the workflow that's support a journey that's happening and like a program that's happening or whatever process is happening so you can execute it with ease. Because when you are missing these certain things, then what happens is everybody's doing everything manually and it is causing a lot of issues within the company or organization. Okay? So I really want you to think about that and see it as not something that you can do later, but something that's necessary for you to be able to get to later. Because oftentimes people say, "Oh, later we'll take care of it," right? But when later comes, the business, company, organization no longer exists because you were so tapped out or things didn't work out the way you wanted it to because you never set up these things in the first place. Because you can grind all you want, but if you don't have things right, all that's happening is that you're taking a broken operation to the next month and then to the next quarter and then to the next year. And that's where I want you to tell you need to stop that, right? Because when the structure is broken, your effort will always feel heavier than it should. And that's what you need to correct because that heaviness isn't a sign that you need to work harder. right? Or that things are not going the way that you need to, or you're not doing enough. It's a sign that your systems need to work better. You need to do a better job at making sure that your systems, right, are designed properly to support your company and organization operationally, right? Because heaviness you're feeling is not normal. And just like if you come home from work and you feel it's okay to feel tired, but to feel like that 24/7, you and I both know that's not normal and something needs to be fixed, right? So, in the same token, if you do all this work just to feel like everything is too much in February, that is not normal because you felt like it was too much in December, in November, in September. It's not different. Some people think because the year changed and it's a new year, so it's a fresh start. No, it's not. It's a continuation. You're just taking the problems from the previous calendar year or the previous calendar year into this new calendar year and pretending it's different. No, it's not. Things are supposed you're supposed to correct issues that you see as you go, not just hope that you're able to correct it later. Because one thing that people mistake is that when you're in business, if you spend money on the aesthetics, looking pretty and stuff like that, then people are going to come. But that's not the only thing that's necessary. Because then when I first started in business in 2020, the one thing that was ingrained in me is if you have a business but no clients and no money, then you don't have a business. The same thing with a nonprofit. If you have a nonprofit, you're running a nonprofit, you have no revenue, no programs, no people that you're helping, and companies, corporations, for profit, same concept, then you're not doing anything, right? So, did you set up your operations to support the work you're supposed to be doing? Because if you have a for profit, you're supposed to be generating revenue. You have a plan to do that, right? Are your operations set up to handle you actually bringing in revenue? If you're a nonprofit, do your operations support the work you're supposed to be doing? And does it support your growth? And Nyla said, we did that, let things get out of hand, and now we have to get back on track. It feels like so many things have to be done at once. And usually, you remember, I don't know if you caught at the beginning when I said sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. Because then when you're so close to the issue, Nyla, you don't see things that you could correct, right? Things that could make it easier. So sometimes it's not a bad idea to have somebody with an outside point of view look in and give you a different perspective that you do not have. And that's something like early in my entrepreneurship experience and journey, I learned it's like I had to get coaches to point me in the right direction because I was new at that. I didn't know how to make money. I didn't know how to generate revenue. I didn't know how to get clients. But I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So I had to get someone to evaluate what I was doing wrong. Or I even recorded my consultations and gave it to my coach and, like, hey, this is what happened, where she was able to break down what I was doing wrong or what was missing. These audits are necessary when you are running a company, running a nonprofit. That's why companies that are even making boku money are bringing consultants to evaluate what they're doing. That's why they get evaluations because they need to understand what worked well and what did not so they could correct it and move forward. So it's not only the big companies that do that, smaller ones need to understand that it's a necessary part of the process to bring in consultants to look at the big, what's happening so you can see the big picture. Because oftentimes when you're too close to it, you're so focused on what you're doing and also holding on to the work that you're putting in that you don't see what you're doing wrong. And that's okay because we're all human, right? So I want you to give yourself grace, Nyla, and realize that it may get out of hand but you need to take a step back and realize how can we improve this so we can like what is it that we're trying to get to and what is serving us right now, what do we need to let go of, and what do we need to continue doing to make sure that we're going in the right direction, because sometimes it's not everything you're doing you have to do, and not everything you're doing is necessary for you to go in the direction you're trying to go. So um definitely give that some thought. All right. And I'm still coughing, y'all. So please don't mind me. I'm gonna cough for a couple of weeks. I don't have a fever anymore, a runny nose or anything, but my cough will not go away. So just letting you know. Anyways, um, so think about an executive director, right? The executive director is going to spend hours cleaning up simple tasks that people were supposed to do because the workflow was never documented and everyone is improvising. So now the executive director has to think about what this person did wrong and fix it. Okay. And it made me think of a business owner friend that messaged me not too long ago that her product, her services, well, not services, her business is product delivery, right? Where the team members are not doing their job right. And I understand, but my question is, did you look at the onboarding process? Did you look at the systems for these individuals? Because if that's two people that are making mistakes where you have to keep like the turnover is high because they're not doing their job properly, sometimes we have to look within. What is it that you're doing wrong as a leader for these people you're bringing on staff to deliver work that's not up to par? Okay, so your systems are things that you have to look at when you are constantly cleaning up people's work, constantly having to do things twice, constantly having to fire and hire people. These are all things that are related to your operations. That means your operation has a problem. There is a gap that needs to be addressed, right? So these are things I think about when I tell you that things should not feel as heavy right now that like the calendar year just started. You know, if we're gonna have like resolutions and things like that, then we gotta fix these problems. You can't want to keep a problem and I can't want to fix your problem for you. You have to want to get rid of it just as much as I talk about fixing problems. You have to want to get rid of them because the effort will produce activity. Yes, it will make you look busy and everything, but the structure will produce result because looking busy is just that, looking busy. But if you don't have results for the work that you're doing, then what is the point? And that's what I want you to think about because you don't want to be running on effort. You don't want to be running on, oh, we're busy, right? We are doing all of this. But then on the back end, 5 months later, you don't have a penny to show for it. You can't hire people, you can't pay your staff, right? So, like, you have to think about the operational aspect of your company or organization to ensure that this is not happening and like things look right. Because effort, no, structure will always be greater than effort because you need that level of structure so you can have the results. Because if you don't have results, then what's the point, right? What's the point of all this work, all this effort that you're putting in? Okay, you don't need more motivation. You don't need all of that stuff. You just need to get really clear on what your structure is going to look like. You know, whether you have clear roles, you have workflows, you have like a decision making matrix. That's another thing people don't think about. Because if people are calling me at like 6 o'clock in the morning to ask me if they can send this email, doesn't sit right with me. There needs to be a decision matrix. What do you need my approval for? Right? Whose approval do you need for certain decisions? If, let's say, even like with companies or organizations that have to approve like checks going out or certain purchase orders, above what amount does it need to go through two different people or this particular person? There needs to be a decision matrix if you're going to have these things, or you're going to end up looking like or feeling like boo boo the fool at the end of the day because you're doing too much. So put these in place, right? Because then the other thing, a former client of mine, like purchases under $100, had to go through them. They were the executive director. Why? Why can't you create a card, like a $50 to $100 card, and just have with the admin staff, like if somebody needs to make a purchase that is necessary for a program, they can just have the card, make sure they have an invoice and give it to that admin person. Like small purchases, there's a decision matrix to make sure that small purchases do not have to reach your desk, do not have to take your time where you physically have to go to the store to get it because you're the only person with access to that card. There are certain things that should not be happening at a certain level, or you're just purposely trying not to grow. Because when things are happening still after 5 years of existence, 10 years of existence, 15 years of existence, at one point, it's a choice. Like I say that certain things that happen in your life, if they are perpetual, they're choices, right? If they are things that last too long, they're choices. So you have to make the choice whether or not you want to stay stuck at the level of where you're just putting in so much effort and not getting results. Okay. Oh Lord, it's 8:42. I know my son didn't go to bed. So I'm gonna have to go soon because I'm gonna have to tell him to go to bed because I heard him turn the alarm off and not go to bed. But these are things I want you to think about. I'm gonna go pretty fast because then our framework at Savage Coaching and Consulting is called the my phone gonna die. It's called the Precision Led Operations Method, right? And it's built to fix exactly this problem that we're talking about today. And Facebook, okay, Facebook camera is over here. So it's it gives you a roadmap, right? Because with the precision led strategy operations method, then there is a strategic planning aspect where we're able to give you the roadmap, right? And there's an operational planning aspect that's supposed to give you an execution path. And systems within this method that we follow, it's supposed to give your team the ability to move without depending on you. So the precisions led operations method is how we do all the work that we do in all the services that we offer. And that's one reason why for February is my birthday month. And crazy enough, it's on 220 and I opened 20 slots for February operations reset. And how that will work is instead of the 1 hour consultation, we're going to take that 1 hour and we're going to do an operations reset where you're going to provide me with the roles that you have currently in your organization or company. We're going to clarify these roles and we're going to look at one or two workflows and I'll give you steps on how to fix those and what to do. And we'll see if we can identify certain bottlenecks that are stopping you from reaching your goal. So for the February operations reset, it's 60 minutes. It's a lot of work for us to do in 60 minutes, but that's what we're going to do because February, we're going to slow down for an hour so you can speed up in February. So it's not about motivation. It's about alignment because at this point you need to have a level of alignment within your company or organization to make sure that you're actually accomplishing your vision. So the link is going to be in my bio. It's in my stand store. If you're on Facebook, the link is in Did I put it in the comments? I'm going to put it in the comments right now. February operations reset. So go ahead and secure yours because that February is the only time I'm going to use the 60-minute slots, the consultation slots, to work actively with you on your operations. So I'm going to leave you with this. You are not stuck because you're not doing enough. You're stuck because you're lacking structure. So go ahead, click the link in my stancer. You're going to see the February operations reset. Book yours. And if you're on Facebook, it's in the comments, or you can go on the link in my bio and go ahead and book yours for February. I look forward to seeing you there, Nyla. It was such a pleasure. interacting with you on here. I hope to catch you next time as well. And we'll talk soon. I'll make sure I close the live on Substack first and then Facebook. Bye, Nyla.